Hey everybody, AJ the One here. How y'all doing? And I'm doing fine myself. Today I'll be doing part 1 to What If Deku with Shang Tsung. I couldn't think of anything clever to say after that point. Hope y'all having a nice day. I know I am myself. Please like, subscribe, and let's get started. Yo, who is shooting? Damn. Those like fireworks. The middle of the day. Crazy. Anyway, to start this what if, Izuku's life would be very similar to how it was at the very start of the anime, until when Izuku finally hit 4 years old and gained his quirk. When Izuku would gain his quirk, the doctors would tell him that his quirk is called demonic soul snatching. His quirk allows him to have small manipulation over fire and to manipulate green energy. This green energy was unknown, but from what doctors would call it, it would basically be Izuku's quote-unquote life force, that they would call it, as they had no other explanation for it. Izuku had the ability to even summon some body parts of even the human body if he has enough energy. So like skulls, arms, legs, rib cages, things like that. Mostly bones. And also, he has the ability to steal souls. So Izuku would be with his father at the quirk doctor as his father would take him home, and Izuku would explain his quirk to his mom. Inko would be very proud of Izuku. And Izuku would go to school the next day and and not even gloat. He would just tell everyone about his quirk. Bad idea. Bad idea. Now, Bakugo in this series will be very different. Bakugo is still the same, but he's more of a fan than All Might on par with Izuku, but he's more shy about it. So like, Izuku has no problem putting nothing but All Might merch across his room. And then, alright, Katsuki would be the type of person to put half of his room with nothing but All Might, and then the other half of his room with whatever he wants. That's sort of his level. And he even watches, I would say, even more videos about All Might than Izuku, when he's, of course, by himself. So, Katsuki, at a 5-year-old standpoint, is now listening to All Might, and now he hears it's not the quirk that makes the person, it's the person that makes the quirk. Okay, so if the person makes the quirk, that means they're able to use it how they will. So Katsuki sees it as, well, if Izuku has the ability to take away souls, and it's the person that makes the quirk, does that make Izuku a villain since he's going to take away souls? That's how Katsuki sees it. So, and Katsuki being wanting to be more of a hero like All Might, and also Izuku would say this as well, that that he wants to be a hero that saves everyone with a smile on his face. As the teachers would ask him what he wants to be, and he would say that, Katsuki would stand up and tell Izuku that he's not going to be any hero with a quirk like his. He's a villain. As Katsuki would say, well, that's what All Might said. And after this point, Katsuki would bully Izuku relentlessly, quote-unquote bully. He thinks that he's doing the right thing as basically stopping a potential threat in the future, as he sees it. When in reality, he's only causing one. As this bullying would go on for around 5 years. During these 5 years, Hasashi and Inko, they will all still be a loving family, but Inko will end up losing her job because her boss tried to hit on her and force himself upon her, and when she rejected and attacked him, he ended up firing her. Firing her. After that point, Inko has no job and is now basically relying on Hasashi to provide for her and Izuku. Hasashi's job isn't all that well and doesn't pay him much either. So now now dealing with the fact that Izuku's sad, it's sort of breaking apart, quote unquote, the family. Or quote unquote breaking apart the family. Ooh. But So at the end of these 5 years, Izuku would be 9 years old. As the next day after his birthday, which was celebrated with like some kids from his class and Inko and Hisashi. Yes, only some kids. I would say like two. But while Izuku is walking his way from school, he would end up getting caught by Katsuki as him and his goons would beat up Izuku again. As while they're beating up, Katsuki would say that he bets that Izuku would kill his mom just so he could get her soul, because that's what a villain would do. Izuku had listening to this for around 5 years, hadn't really seen himself as a villain, but he saw himself able to become one because Katsuki constantly did. Like, him and Katsuki were friends. And then now that Katsuki changed like this because he's a villain, he thought that he did something to see himself in that way. So what does he do? So Izuku starts to believe himself to be somewhat of a villain. And now because of that, whenever Katsuki says this, he's now afraid that he's going to go home and hurt his mom. So Izuku would go home and walk in the door. And Izuku would be bruised, burnt, and scarred. And Inko and Hisashi would be, I would say, like in the kitchen, possibly making dinner, and this is when Inko would look over at Izuku. Actually, no, I'm gonna say Inko's making food and Hisashi's probably like doing some work at like the table. Inko is also trying to get a new job, but anyway, Inko would look over at Izuku and see that he's bruised and hurt, and would turn off the stove and would run over to Izuku to check up on him. Actually, no. I feel like she would tell Hisashi to work on the food as she would run up over to Izuku, and she would see what happened, and she would see a burn mark on Izuku's arm. As Inko would realize that it was Katsuki. Hisashi, realizing this, would be completely done with whatchamacallit. It was Katsuki bullying Izuku, so he would get up to walk up. So while he's walking towards the kitchen, he would walk up to his phone and dial up Mitsuki's phone number. Actually, no. Whatever Bakugo's dad's name is, he would dial up his number. But anyway, as soon as Inko would go over to try and walk and check up on Izuku would end up backing up because he would be scared that he was gonna hurt her. Inko would be confused and ask Izuku why he thought that he was gonna hurt her, and after that, Izuku would tell what Katsuki had told her. Inko would feel kind of sad as she would say that Izuku would never hurt her. And to not listen to what Katsuki said. Izuku wanted to believe that, but he was still too scared of what Katsuki had told him. So Izuku would still end up backing away. This would bring Inko to tears, constantly yelling at Izuku for him to get over here. She basically wanted a hug from her son to prove that he wouldn't hurt her. She would end up chasing Izuku around the house, telling Izuku to come towards her, and Izuku wouldn't. While Hisashi was calling the phone, he would look over and see what was going on. As he would put down his phone, and try to walk over to help out. When this would happen, Izuku would sort of be backed up towards a wall, and Inko would be slowly walking towards Izuku. She would get down to Izuku's eye level and put out her arms, saying that it's okay, as she would move forward to try and hug Izuku. Izuku would put out his hand, telling her to stay away from him, as Izuku would end up accidentally using his quirk and would end up stealing Inko's soul accidentally. Now, how Izuku's soul snatching works is, depending on the person's will that Izuku's soul is taking, depends on how easy or how long it will take for Izuku to steal that person. So if he would attempt to steal All Might's soul, it would take him around, I would say, 30 minutes. But for Inko's soul, it would be almost instantaneously. Now, something else. If he's taking a group of people's souls, then depending on all of their wills equivalent to his, So that means it'll be. So let's just say there are 30 people who all have the will of, let's say, a child, right? After one smack, a child's pretty much done and doesn't want to fight anymore. Let's say everybody has a. Let's just say there's a bunch of those type of kids in that one room, and they will all be able to equal up. They will all add together to go to Izuku's will and his strength. Izuku would still be able to take all their souls because his will would be stronger than all of theirs combined. If he wants to take all their souls at once, if he wants to do it individually, then that's also easier. It's just like 5 seconds, like zoop, zoop, zoop. But enough with that. Also Izuku later in the future will learn how to give back souls, but right now he can't. Anyway, back to the story. When Inko would fall down to the ground, Hasashi would be right behind her as he would see Inko fall to the ground dead, as her body would slowly shrivel up and turn gray. And after this point, Hasashi and Izuku would look shocked for a few seconds, staring at each other, and also, staring at Inko's body, until Hasashi would run over to the phone, dial up 911, call the ambulance, and also stammer while saying that his son had also accidentally killed his mom with the quirk malfunction. The ambulance would come, take Inko away, and then on top of that, they would take Izuku, not away, but they would just take him to quirk counseling for some time, and also some therapy as well. Now, during this time, Hasashi wouldn't really know what to do. He loves his son, yes, but he had just killed his wife. He doesn't blame Izuku at all for it, but it's just the fact of he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have the love of his life anymore. He still has his son, but his son is ridiculously sad. Katsuki's still bullying him, and now he's gonna be the only one providing for Izuku. He doesn't even know what to do, except for one thing: to go out and just drink all his pain away, possibly. So Hasashi would eventually end up getting home after a long day of work, and would see Izuku, and would see Izuku sitting on the couch. Actually, no. He would go over to sit on the couch, and Izuku would walk up to him and tug on his arm, and ask his dad if it's his fault that he killed his mom. Hasashi, still being drunk and also upset and being confused, he would say what he actually felt. Yes, it's his fault, and he's a monster, a villain for it. And then he wished that he was never born, basically. And after this, Hasashi would get up and punch Izuku across the face. And Hasashi would spend a long period of time constantly beating down and abusing Izuku. Oh shit. But Hasashi still knows that Izuku goes to therapy. So if Izuku goes to therapy and the therapist sees that he has bruises on him, it won't be too good for him. So Hasashi punches Izuku hard enough where Izuku gets the message, but not hard enough for there to be bruises left on him. But anyway, the next day, Izuku would go to therapy, and Hasashi would tell Izuku, Hasashi would go in there with Izuku and tell the therapist that Izuku doesn't need any more therapy. I don't know how therapy actually works, but just roll with it. The therapist would be lightly confused, but would mind their business as Izuku and Hasashi would leave. Soon as Hasashi would realize that Izuku, he can honestly drop Izuku out of school. Actually, no, he couldn't. He would just tell Izuku to wear long sleeve clothes, but when he wasn't, he would beat down on Izuku full man strength for around months on end. Izuku wouldn't really know what to do about it. He thought that this was a punishment for what he did, and every day he would constantly feel like it was his fault. He's the reason why his mom is dead, and he's the reason why his dad is acting like this. Until one day, Hasashi would bust into Izuku's room. Izuku would be sitting on the bed, sad, like reading a book of sorts, with the beer bottle in Hasashi's hand. Izuku would look up scared and sort of open up the book more and try to curl up into a ball behind the book. Hasashi would drink rest of the alcohol inside the bottle, flip the bottle upside down, and smack it against the wall, causing it to be sharp. After that, he would slowly walk over towards Izuku, and then go into a full sprint at Izuku, grabbing Izuku by his neck and slamming him against slamming Izuku against his headboard of his bed. Hasashi would reel back his hand with the beer bottle in it and we yell, "It's all your fault!" as step forward. Izuku would put out hands and use a light amount of green energy to break the bottle off of instincts. This would send. Hold on, am I still recording? Yeah, I am. All right. This would send Hasashi's hand back a little bit and even cause some glass shards to get inside of his hand. Hasashi would get upset as he would use his hand that's grabbing Izuku's neck, reel Izuku back and slam him into his headboard. And after that, reel back his fist that just thrown Izuku and punch him across his face. And then use his hand that has some glass shards in them, ignoring the pain and punching Izuku again and again and again and again. Izuku would realize that if he doesn't do anything, he's gonna die. But he feels like he's worthy of this. His mom is dead because of him, and it's all his fault. He deserves it. He deserves it. But even though that Izuku believes with every fiber of his being that he deserves it, his instincts, his will to live, his will to move forward, still gets to him. As Izuku would put out his hand and would yell out that he didn't want to die. So Izuku's green energy would flourish as Hasashi's soul would slowly leave out of his body. While Hasashi's soul is slowly leaving, Izuku would look up at him would look up at Hasashi as Hasashi would be looking at Izuku, not with fear or anger in his eyes, just staring at him. And even at the end, he would have a light smirk as Hasashi would fall back on the bed and his body would shrivel up. Izuku wouldn't really know how to feel. He didn't know how to react. It's his fault that they're both dead. That both of them are dead. It's his fault. It's his. Izuku would think this as he would run away from his father's dead body, put on his shoes. He would have like shorts and a red shirt on as he would put on his shoes as he would run away. He would run as far as he could, and for, I would say, around a day. Hasashi wouldn't show up for around a week. Police would be sent to his place as they would find his dead body. They know it's only been a week, so however long he's been dead for, he's not been dead for too long. But while his body like this, I would say Hasashi's boss would know what Izuku's quirk is, and also would know that Izuku had killed his mom as well, so this wouldn't be a shocker if Izuku did it to his dad. The police would recognize this. They would ask the boss on how old the kid was, and he would say 9. They would ask the Hasashi's boss how old the kid was, and he would say 9. As they would realize that the Hasashi was they would realize the copious amounts of. They would realize the broken beer bottle on the wall, the stain on the wall, the broken glass, and other such. Realized that Hasashi was probably not the greatest of dads, and Izuku had just snapped. But after so long of searching and not finding Izuku, they would just think that Izuku was either dead or is somewhere to never be seen again. What's actually going on with Izuku is that Izuku is staying just out on the streets just walking around. And people every day would pass by Izuku, not even giving him a second glance, as they would look over once and not do anything. Izuku would be sitting there wondering why nobody is helping him. He would even ask for help, and some people would either ignore them or tell him that they couldn't. Izuku will be sitting there wondering why was nobody helping him. And so then he will remember Katsuki. Izuku remembered that Katsuki had told him that he is a villain, and everybody knows it. with your quirk, you're nothing but a villain, and nobody will ever treat you differently. Izuku remembered those words. Izuku being a little bit not. Izuku realized that that's not what exactly Katsuki meant, or not exactly what's going on in this situation. Where Izuku will realize nobody's gonna help him because they all assumed that a hero was going to do it, and he's a villain because of his quirk. And they even though they don't know his quirk, they don't know who he is, so they're probably just gonna treat him like one. And that's what move on. And Izuku would just proceed to realize he would basically have the same resentment or realization that Shigaraki had. Everyone's weak, and they're just gonna think that a hero's gonna help them, so they're not gonna bother to help out a kid on the street. But anyway, after some time of walking, Izuku would be rummaging through garbage to try and find any form of food or blanket, because it does get cold. Until a voice from the darkness in the alley would call out to Izuku. "Now what's a little thing like you doing here?" Izuku would look over and see a tall man in a black suit and sort of a mask of sorts, with tubes coming out of them wrapping around to his back. He would put out his hand and he would say, "Let me help you. I can tell what you've been through. And I know that me and you will get along very well." And that's where hold on. And that's where I'm gonna end this off. I hope you all have a nice day. Hope everything's cool with y'all. And I'm gonna be ending this recording off here.